What's up, everybody? It's time for Cooking with Steve and
Lauren.
don't mess up my shot. And today we are making mince. I guess we're gonna make spaghetti Bolognese. It's like a red wine Bolognese. Do we have mushrooms? Maybe I'll put some mushrooms in there.
I have no clue.
Maybe, I don't know. So far, I put some onions, garlic, red pepper, and we're about to put some tomatoes in there. And we're going to let the water come out of them and evaporate so it becomes into a nice little paste. And then after everything is cooked and flavored real nicely, then we're going to throw the mincemeat in there, mix it all around, let that cook. Then after that would be, I think, a little bit of red wine, and then some red beans, and then some chili stuff. I don't know. I might make a chili style or Italian style. I'm not sure yet. With Italian like red sauce. But anyway, I don't know. That's the good thing about cooking. You can do whatever the hell you want. All right. Now we're adding the tomatoes. So when you add tomatoes or tomato paste, you want to put everything else to the side around the edges so it doesn't burn while you're putting it in. And then when you put the tomatoes in, the tomatoes should, be quenched, like get all the water out of them. So these are going to turn into nice, soft little chunks in a few minutes. Okay? Just kind of flatten it out. And let these quench a little bit. I don't even know the word for it. I'm going to call it quench. Wow, look at that. Look at the steam coming off of them. But they bring a lot of water. You don't want to have a watery sauce. So to avoid that, you let the water evaporate and cook off while they start to get more limp. Alright, I also threw some oregano, basil, a little bit of chili powder in there for a little bit of heat. And we're going to throw some peas in there. What's that? Throw some peas in there because, quarantine problems. Woo-hoo-hoo! Look at all that. This is going to be fun. Excuse me, please. Look at all of that. This is going to be fun. Now, when these peas stop sounding like marbles, then you know to add the meat in there. But I'm going to be adding some salt, pepper. I already put onions and garlic and all that stuff already, but these are going to be, wow, it got real quiet. It was like, woo. Whenever you put salt in your dish, make sure that you don't over salt it, you have to under salt it. A lot of people think I'm going to get the salt spot on. Yeah, I'm going to put exactly what I need. Unless you're following an exact recipe, do not put more salt than normal. Make sure that you put like a regular amount. Most meals, rule of thumb, the amount of salt that you put in there should be like basically not even your whole palm, like a little bit. So if I go like this, most meals only require this much salt or less. Basically a tablespoon or a teaspoon. If you're putting more than a tablespoon of salt in your dish, I don't know, you're probably going to be disappointed.
And your fingers are going to get swollen.
Sure. So, sprinkle a little salt in there. Okay, I'm going to be putting more salt than usual here because I know I'm going to add mincemeat to it, and that's going to need its own salt. But another rule of thumb is, as you're adding your ingredients, if you have two large things that you're adding, for example, all the veggies are going in, they're sauteing, they're whatever, you kind of sprinkle enough salt on that part that looks like, you're going to get the idea. You sprinkle enough salt on that part that makes sense to you, and then when you add the next big part, like all the mincemeat in there, I'm going to put enough, I'm going to resalt again on the mincemeat so my eyes can kind of tell me, alright, this looks like enough salt for the amount of meat I put down. So that kind of helps you in the salt category. Pepper, you put about half as much pepper as salt. You don't want to put the same or else it'll be like peppery. Alright, now it's time to add the meat. Same as before, when you added the tomatoes, you want to put everything to the side because you don't want the meat to be sitting on top of something that's not really that hot. So you put all this stuff to the side. Some people, they do the meat or the other large part separately, but I don't really care putting it in the same dish together. Okay, kind of spread it out, and then put the meat on. Sorry, buddy. Woohoo! Alrighty. Now, I don't mind salting this right away because salt is not really going to mess you up in any way. Some people salt their steaks, for example, before they cook them. They cover it in salt just so the salt kind of breaks up the meat a little bit and makes it tender. Because this is going to be a Bolognese like sauce, it's not really that big of a deal if you salt it whenever you want to. So let's throw some salt now on this. I'm going to salt it, like I said before, separately. So just enough salt where it looks like it's covering it. And then that's it. That should be enough salt for the whole dish. At the end, make sure you taste it because every good chef tastes his food. And never trust the skinny chef. All right, guys, we're also going to throw some Worcestershire, some brown sauce in there. Just enough where you think, all right, I didn't mess it up. Hey, zoom in on that. Now look at all that. Half of the water that you see in there is coming from the meat. Now once it's kind of cooked a little bit, you kind of fold it into itself. You notice I threw a little bit of butter in there. Fold it into itself. Yes, chop it up. I put a little hint of milk in there as well, just a small drop. I would say maybe 3 or 4 teaspoons worth of milk, just to give it some creaminess. Along with the butter, your dairy gives you the creaminess in the sauce. Wow, look at that. Starting to look mighty fine. There's the butter swimming around still. You definitely want it to kind of go down to just some crumbles, meat crumbles. You don't want it to be too fine. You don't want it to be too chunky. Just crumbles. Not morsels, crumbles, like little clusters. Now the next thing we're going to put is the red wine, which I need to put this up a little higher. You're going to really be on medium heat the whole time, folks. Now, check this out. Back up a little bit. I'm going to put one cup of wine in here. I know it feels like you're wasting it, but you're not. The flavor is going into the food. All the alcohol will burn off, and only the flavor will be left. The sweet flavor of wine. Now you don't want to throw cold wine into your food while it's cooking because it'll slow everything down and stop the cooking process. So you want to put this wine in the microwave or something, heat it up, or if you guys are freaking out by microwaves, heat it up on the side and just let it get hot. Then you throw it in there and it'll kind of match the temperature and continue the cooking process, not stop it. So, all right, next we're throwing in a little quirky ingredient, honey mustard. I know. Don't worry, it's good. And you're not going to put a lot of it in there. This is just a hint. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. That's it. Just a few little strings in there. Can you see it? No, barely. Just a little bit. It's going to give you some pizzazz, little jazz in your food. Now, come and zoom in here, and you see all the water that's here? From now on, I'm going to be cooking this with the top off, so all the water can evaporate and come out of this. Pretty soon, I'm going to be adding the red sauce, tomato sauce, And I don't want all this water to be in it at that moment, because then the sauce will just have all the water in it and it's harder to get the water out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain this a tiny bit just to get the excess out, because you don't want to overcook the meat either. That's why you see all these grandmas over here, they're simmering sauce for like 8 hours all day or whatever on a low heat, because they want to get all the wateriness out of the sauce and make it thick. But I'm gonna kind of accelerate that process because we hungry out here. We hungry. Look at that. Beautiful. Time for the wine in a little bit, but I'm gonna let this simmer for a little bit, see how much water actually comes out of it, and then there's gonna be a certain point where I'm gonna feel like, you know, I don't want to cook the meat too much, so I'm gonna just drain it a little bit. You could use like a strainer. I don't think I have one here, but you can use a strainer, a very fine one, something like this, actually. And when you do that, you know, you put the meat inside here. I think I have a bigger one. You put the meat inside here, just kind of shake it like this a little bit, then put it back in once you've drained the oil. A good way to check to see how much water you have in your food is to look in the middle. If you put all the meat to the side, look how much water is in this. This is not too bad, but I do want to kind of strain this a little bit. Another trick to do, if you don't want to strain the meat or whatever, you can grab a paper towel and just go like that. Believe it or not, it picks up a decent amount, and then you can just throw it out. Hop, hop, hop. That's another neat trick there. But anyway, yeah, I think that's good. You want to make sure your meat is still pretty moist. You don't want to drain all of the fluid out, because that fluid is basically gravy. And by the way, folks, this is gravy because it's being made with meat. If it was sauce, it would be all veggies, tomatoes, etc., spices. But because we're making it with meat, it's called gravy. Alright guys, now it's time to add the vino. That's Chinese for wine. Yes. Now remember, I microwaved this wine, so it was pretty steamy when I took it out. You don't want to put cold wine or room temperature wine in here, because then it'll slow down or even stop the cooking process. Now it's starting to look like some nice gravy. The wine also brings water, more water. So not only does it bring water, but it brings alcohol. So we have to let that simmer and let that evaporate and, you know, reduce. That's what they call it. And I'm going to reduce it with the top off, because it lets the gases expand and reduce more, and you don't have to sit here licking your lips the whole time because you're salivating waiting to eat this. While you're waiting for your red wine to reduce in your gravy, now is a good time to fill the pot to cook your pasta. Hey, no peeking! Alright, now it's time to put some salt in your water for the pasta. Now, I don't know why we put salt in the water. My grandma always told me to do it. Can't argue with her. Then you put some oil in there. Now, I know why you need to put oil in your pasta bowl. Pasta... What's it called? The pasta pot. Because when the water boils over, without oil, the water will boil over, and the oil keeps it from boiling over. All the bubbles and frothiness, it keeps the water down. All right, now it's time to add the red beans to the gravy. Now, when you're opening this up, it's going to bring its own little liquid in there. You don't want this liquid, because then now it'll go into your gravy, and then it will bring more water that you have to reduce and all that, and it's just going to be too, I don't know, nasty. So I'm going to drain these right here, rinse them off, so it's straight up just red beans. And all the little paste that comes with them we don't really need the paste for this. If you were making like a bean dip or something, then yeah, maybe. But in this case, all I want is the beans. Just beans, sir. Just the facts, ma'am. All right, gonna let these dry a little bit because now I washed them and they have water all over them. And it will be counterintuitive to my gravy. You could even get some paper towels and like pat them. It really goes down to that. The more water you bring into your cocktail, the more you have to simmer and let it evaporate, you know, and cook off and reduce. So, and the longer you do that, the longer you're cooking your meat. Not fun. I think the timer just went off for the red wine simmer. So go ahead, check it out. Not bad. Honey, why don't you give that a stir?
Oh, sure, no problem. I can help cook.
Just fold it in. There you go. Nice. See? The water level there is pretty nice. It's not too much, not too little. You don't want it to be dry, but at the same time, you don't want it to be swimming in just water, liquid, oil. Look at that. Very nice. This is going to feed a family of 17 now. Now it's time to add the beans. Now, red meat, it can harm you if you don't cook it right. You gotta cook it a certain amount of time and all that. But beans, you can throw them in at any time that you like because they're just gonna heat up with the food and be fine. So I usually throw them in here just so I can see what the ratio is, but you could throw them in later, at the end, doesn't matter. All right, so just, there you go. And I gotta cook off the water that they brought. See, all the ingredients here bring water. That's all they bring. The only fun guy that came to the table was the wine. He brought the alcohol. Yeah, look at all this. Mix it all in there. Can't mix it too much because you can break the beans and then they'll be all mushy. But, yeah, so that's fine. Next we add the sauce. Then the gravy will be complete. Now it's time to taste the meat. Right before you put the sauce in, make sure your meat tastes good. Because even though the sauce is going to be there and all that good stuff, it's going to be a saucy flavor. When you bite into the meat crumble, does the meat taste good or does it taste bland? Does it taste watery? You need to add salt. So now's the time that you want to taste your meat right before you put the red sauce in, before the sauce just hides everything and you can't really tell. Now it's time to add the sauce. You probably only want to add one jar. Maybe have like a little extra pizza sauce on the side. It doesn't really matter. Most of the flavor is going to come from what you already did, all the hard work you put in, and this is just going to be a little cherry on top. Also, this one is tomato, onion, and garlic, so it's only just going to add to what I already have here. And then, of course, this has to simmer for like 30 minutes to get the acidity of the tomato out, because when you put tomatoes in there, they not only bring a lot of water, but they bring an acidic kind of tomato flavor. So to cook that off, you gotta wait at least 30 minutes of simmer time. I know all you traditional Italians out there, you're like, you gotta do it for at least 3 hours, or I'm gonna get you wet. But anyway, we're gonna cut that out. All right. Look at all of that. So at this point, I already tasted the meat. I put everything else in there that I need to. The meat tastes great. It's seasoned perfectly. It was actually salted exactly right. I didn't have to add salt or add something else like that brings water to make it less salty or whatever. So I'm happy for that. Even if it's a little bit too salty, it's okay, because this sauce, even though it has salt, whatever like flavors in it, the sauce kind of blends it out a little bit too. So don't be afraid if you oversalt it a little bit. If you oversalt it by a lot, just throw the whole thing out because you suck. I'm just kidding, you guys don't suck. That's why you're watching my videos, so you can get a little better. Maybe. When you add your sauce, you don't have to worry about microwaving it and heating it up and all that, because by the time you add your sauce, everything that you had cooking already kind of cooked, so you can just add it room temperature or straight out of the fridge, it doesn't matter. Also, if you zoom in here a little bit, you can see it's already starting to pop, lock, and drop it. So you could lower your heat a little bit. Another thing, maybe I have it down to like, not full simmer, just a little bit less than medium, just so it doesn't cook the meat and everything too much into a mush. I'm also going to put the top on it because it's pretty thick already. I don't really mind putting the top on and keeping some moisture in there. It'll also just help cook the tomato acid off. So we're just doing that, yeah. And I know that we cook for like a large amount of people every time. We have like 6 or 7 people that are eating, plus the next day or two we like to have leftovers. I know you guys don't have to cook this much, like John and Kate plus 8 are coming over or anything, but just cook your own thing. Cut whatever you see by half or by a quarter, and you should have the same result. So let's see what happens. Another cool trick when you're pouring out your sauce from the from the jar is to put it upside down for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes while everything's cooking, because it's thin enough to fall down. So if you put it upside down, you get that last bit of sauce out. You don't waste any of your hard-earned money. Gravity always wins, folks. Don't forget that. Alright guys, now it's time to put the pasta in the water. Now, I know this seems very trivial and just put it in the water, that's it. No. If you throw the pasta in the water, the boiling water, and you just leave it there, put the top back on, it'll stick to itself. Even though you put oil in there, you should definitely mix around, mix the water around, and then throw this in there. Let the oil kind of try to coat some of the pieces so they don't stick together. But yeah, that's basically what you should look out for. So you chuck it all in. And you mix it around. And then in about like 2 or 3 minutes, you want to mix it again. Now, I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but we had the container, it looks like it was an unsalted mixed nuts container. And I know that you guys might see this and think, oh, are those mixed nuts? No, they're not. In this house, we reuse things. Like you guys should too on quarantine. By the way, thanks Costco for the large containers of everything. While I'm cooking all this fancy jazz to my left, to my right we have
Lauren baking
some
peanut butter cookies.
Oh wow. Great job. What are you doing here? Explain.
Oh, I just followed the instructions on Betty Crocker, and I put in 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of water, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And now you roll them out, and then you press it down with a fork, like so.
Ah, a crosshatch.
Oh
Clever.
yeah, we got fancy.
That is correct. Great job.
Thanks.
Did you wash your coronavirus hands before you put the tomatoes down?
I don't know. I don't know why you just went country on me, but yes, I washed my hands.
All right, good. Yeah. I meant cookies, not tomatoes. I just think tomato is a funny country word. All right.
That's all I got.
Sounds like fun. Looks like you're almost done with the cookies.
I'm going to sprinkle some walnuts on them.
Ah, yes, walnuts. And how are you going to crush these walnuts? Give us a neat little tip on how to crush the walnuts.
Oh, sure. You just open the walnuts.
Even though we had a box already open, but
right.
Keep going.
Okay, now you just go like that.
Uh-huh.
Roll your sleeves up, right? And then when you want to crush them, you just use your muscles and just go like that.
Wait, what about the pot? Remember the pot?
I could do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Show us the pot trick.
The pot trick. You mean with how you do it with the garlic?
Yeah. Well, no, not the pot, but like, you know, you get the saucepan.
The saucepan.
Yeah, go ahead. Grab it.
The saucepan.
Grab just, yeah, that one. show everybody how we crush walnuts in this house. You can crush it on here because, you know, yeah, there you go. Just push it down and look, it's crushed. Well, you can put like 10 of them down and crush them all.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Give that a shot. Put a little handful down there. Yeah. Oh, she's so strong. Well, let's see what carnage you've caused. Wow, look at that.
That's nice.
It's very nice. So there you go, guys.
Just use a pot. It's easier. It's easier.
Or you can use your big muscles.
Yeah. There you go. Just
great.
like that.
Now sprinkle them on top. Doesn't matter if you miss.
Really
just throw them everywhere.
Want a few.
Because the cookies stick to the thing, you can kind of slide the walnuts that fell off of the tray back into this tray. So, all right, now it's time to check if your pasta is done. And how you check that is by tasting it. Dang, I dropped it. Yeah. Now another little fun fact about pasta, and it's a little bit of a gripe that I have, is people say, oh, I want my pasta to be al dente. Well listen, if you speak any kind of European language or any of the Romance languages, which are Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, or French, al dente is pretty similar in most languages, which means to the tooth, which means you gotta taste it. Al dente, to the tooth, dente, dentes. Al dente is not a certain kind of doneness. It's either how you like it when you bite it or not. So al dente pasta is how you like it. So give it a shot. Put it in your mouth. All right, now it's time to drain the pasta. And when you drain the pasta, don't burn yourself. It's very easy. And you want to keep a little bit of the water if you can. Whoop. Just a tiny bit of water. Never mind. I think I spilled it all out anyway. Want to get all the pasta that's stuck to the bottom. Hopefully none of it's stuck to the bottom. And then you kind of just rinse it off. After you finish draining your pasta and it starts to get a little dry, you gotta make sure you put a little bit of olive oil on it. Only a tiny bit. That's it. Then once you spread it around, it'll have a very nice thin coating all over everything and it won't stick. Plus, put a little bit of salt. A little bit. The pasta should not be salty. It should just have some flavor to it. And that's about it. All right, the final product. Come on and zoom in. Look at this. See how it's like not liquidy or watery? Now after I mix it a little bit, see how it's like basically looks like a chili, but it's not exactly a chili. Chili is a little bit thicker than this. But this is right there, right in between just plain old sauce and chili in consistency. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna basically put the pasta in a bowl and then just kind of scoop that on top. And we're gonna show you how the cookies came out. It's gonna be all great. So thanks for watching. If you guys have your way of making it, please comment, throw your video on there, put it on YouTube and give me a link. I don't know. Maybe I should have done something or not done something. It's cool to get some feedback from you guys, whoever's watching. And you know, we'll all make it better. We'll make each other better. All right. Now a little bonus feature here. We're gonna talk about salad. Whatever salad you do make, lettuce, tomato, cucumbers, carrots, onions, whatever you put in there, try this for your dressing. Instead of Italian or French ranch, etc., try putting olive oil, vinegar, salt, pepper, and a little bit of this Louisiana pure hot sauce. Well, actually, my favorite is Red Devil. It's a black label, and it has a little, you know, devil whatever on it, and it says Red Devil. It's my favorite brand, but this is very good too. All it is cayenne pepper sauce. So if you put a little bit of that on there, and I want you to pay attention to how much I put on. It's really not that bad. That's it. Just a little bit. And then when you toss it around, serve it to your folks, and just don't tell them They're gonna be like, wow, oh, what'd you put in here? This is God. And then you're gonna be laughing because you put hot sauce in it and they have no clue. Peanut gallery over there wanted me to mention that it's apple cider vinegar. It doesn't matter. The only vinegar that you should be putting in here is any vinegar. It's totally fine. Jeez. Anyway.